Now, there'll be many of you watching this programme who've heard me talk about one of my oldest and bestest friends, Darrell and his battle, for the want of a better word, with the enemy that he calls sarcoma cancer. Now, I'm really, really disappointed to tell you that he passed away just over a week ago. We've been friends since we were 16 years old, and I was best man at his wedding. This is the last time that we were pictured together when I gave him his award, his inspiration award for a charity called Sarcoma UK. Sarcoma cancer was what he had. And I've been thinking a lot about, look, he was absolutely brilliant, thinking a lot about how we talk to kids about grief, because we knew for a while, obviously he was unwell, and I talked to the kids a lot about their uncle being unwell. And for us, it was really important that we spoke to the kids very, very openly about grief and about death, and also because I'm godmother to his eldest, Maya, who's 10 years old. So the way that they've dealt with grief with the kids has been absolutely incredible. But, ahead of World Cancer Day tomorrow, I sort of wanted to talk about him and also sort of say to people that when you're thinking about donating, if you are going to donate tomorrow to World Cancer Day, please think about the smaller cancer charities as well, because they need a huge amount of support. And Darrell was a big campaigner for Sarcoma UK, and he'd been on billboards all over the country talking about early diagnosis, because it took more than 70 days for him to be diagnosed with sarcoma. Unfortunately, he developed the lump in his neck during COVID in 2000, and he was diagnosed, we're 3 weeks apart, and he was diagnosed on his 40th birthday. And when he popped round to my house, as they always were going to for his 40th birthday lunch, he told me all about it. He fought through it for 4.5 years, and I'm incredibly proud of him. But I sort of wanted to concentrate on how we deal with grief where children are concerned, because having seen the way that as a community, sometimes within the Caribbean communities, we tend to decide that we're not talking about death, we're not talking about grief, and especially with children, we pretend that it's not happening. But the way in which Darrell and his wife, Amy, have spoken and communicated grief and death throughout their dad's diagnosis has been beautiful and very different to how I think my parents navigated it with me and with, sorry, I'm trying really hard to make sure I get words out today, how they navigated it with us. And I'm not saying that was in a wrong way at all, because you deal with grief with children with the tools that you have. And what Darrell and Amy have done with their children and what I've done with mine has been very honest about it, because I think that's how we can give our kids the tools that they need to be able to deal with grief whenever they come across it. And as a family, they've always spoken really openly. That's why he was a campaigner, to try and stop other families going through what he's been through, and also encourage people to talk about it. So I think hiding from your own grief isn't always the way to do it. And he put his energies into making sure that people were able to deal with their own diagnosis and to prevent other people from having it. I mean, I know, Kel, that you lost your father. As a family, was it something that you spoke about?
Yes. I mean, I was there when my dad got the diagnosis. He passed away in 2007. He was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. And, I mean, he's, this tough scaffolder who, I was ever so close to, obviously. And, we were told, that's it, 6 months, literally in the room, you've probably got 6 months, make plans. So it was never a mystery what we were dealing with. And the grief started in that room. And I remember walking out and my mum was a mess and I just couldn't swallow. And I just had physical symptoms of grief. And I think I just spent those 6 months just trying to kind of create as many fun memories and spent as much time with him as possible. But when he did pass, because it had been so painful and I feel like we had been grieving since the day of the diagnosis, there is that element of euphoria when they do pass, that they're not suffering anymore and you're not suffering as a family, and now we can all move past it and try and come to terms with the fact they're not there, even though that void's, always going to be there. So grief is just such a strange thing. And I think for many, many years, I couldn't come to terms with my father passing away. And that manifested into you know, different relationships that were volatile, work, anything to distract. And I think grief didn't hit me till 5 years after.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I think it hit me quite late.
Yeah.
So, but it was definitely a decade of all of it, I think. And whenever anyone goes through it, and I'm so sorry for your loss, I think whenever anyone goes through it, it makes me cry because I know what it is. And I have so much empathy for anyone that's had it or going through it because it's the worst. It really is. And all you can do is just be there.
Yeah.
So know that we all know what you're going through and we're all there for you, OK?
And Jude, I know that the losses that you've had over the past few years alone, do you think you've spoken enough with your kids about it?
Yeah, do you know what? On reflection of us talking, this is why it's so great to have you amazing women in my life and this show, because I think on reflection, my own traumas as a child, going to funerals and not, you know, not getting the information really scared me. So I think I haven't spoken about it as much to my children. When my mum passed away, it was just my daughter I had and I was 9 months pregnant. But me and my sister didn't let our children come, my daughter or her children come to the funeral. I think it was more about, oh, God, I didn't know he was going to show my mum's picture.
It's OK.
I know we're going to be a mess today, aren't we?
It's hard, I get it. And I think in terms of, you know, but that's part of the process, isn't it? You see a picture, you smell something, someone says something, and it kind of brings it all back.
I think as well, you're right, being from the West Indian culture, you know, it was, nobody asked me about when I got dead. You know what I mean? It was like unalive now, as they say, because it was just an area that we didn't step into. And I think it's now important. I think it is important to have those conversations. I think at the time I was probably more worried about how my daughter would deal with seeing me distressed. And I think I'm also trying to break that generational thing of like, don't talk about it. Let's talk about it so we can live, so that we can love, so we can enjoy, we can be there. And I find what I've done, because like many of us been through so much different losses and being a child carer, I now at a stage where I really try to protect myself emotionally so that I've got enough to support the people in my inner circle. So I don't go to funerals as much and stuff like that. I just want to have the strength to support my loved ones and my inner circle when they need me as well.
Yeah, that's important.
I mean, really, we haven't got time for mine.
But do you know what I will do, though? Before, look, we do have helplines offering support, of course, as we always do. And I know that we can talk with each other about it, but I'm aware that not everybody does. But the helplines that we have online at ITV.com/helplines. We've got Hollywood Royalty coming up next, but before, straight into, and I know the director's going to go in my ear, this is not what we planned, Charlene, I don't really care. What I'm going to end with on now is I know that Darrell's wife is watching. I love you lots, and I know that we will get through this together as a family, as friends, as everything, because sometimes friend loss can feel like family loss because they are your family. What I'm going to end on is when Darrell received his Inspiration Award in November, which I handed to him, he gave an incredible speech where he talked about what is important in the world. So going into the break, have a listen to him now.
I want people to realise, yes, sarcoma is a bad thing, it can be really damaging. Lots of things can be too. When you wake up, think about those people you really love and really enjoy spending time with. And make that your aim. Don't go fighting for money and things and stuff. It's all about people and about love. Thank you.